run.
A genetic cyborg with a bomb in its ribcage.
Needs a rebel leader to bring down a government conspiracy.
Put everything on the line for you and I want my head.
You'll get it. Now, two strangers must trust each other.
I need you to run me into that city underground.
And fight their way in.
What's in there?
Give me proof before time runs out.
Maybe you are a bomb. Just don't blow up in my face.
Imposter. Rated PG-13. Everywhere Christmas Day.
Based off of a story from the author of Total Recall and Blade Runner, Philip K. Dick. Imposter has Gary Sinise, Madeline Stowe, Vincent D'Onofrio, and Mekhi Phifer in a film where, at the time when the Earth has been at war with an alien force for over a decade, the latest work of Lauda government scientist Spencer Olem, played by Sinise, promises to save the planet, but suddenly Olem himself is accused of being an alien spy and is thrown headlong into a disorienting nightmare as a fugitive from the law. With blasts of adrenaline-fueled intensity, this futuristic thriller soars as Olem races to prove his identity to the world and himself in time to save mankind. And, yeah, there's a reason why this was dumped on January 4th, and as you can tell by that trailer, this thing did not open up on Christmas Day. And, first of all, you shouldn't be releasing a movie like this on Christmas Day unless you're James Cameron. This isn't gonna fly on Christmas Day, but this is directed by Gary Fledler and also written by David Twohy, who wrote Pitch Black, and Aaron Kruger, who would later go on to write The Ring. And despite a great cast involved in here, and despite the fact that it's based off of a Philip K. Dick story, it's not really all that interesting or all that exciting in general. In fact, Philip K. Dick would be the basis of another adaptation that came out later in the year, a far more successful movie with Minority Report, but we'll eventually get to that one when we get to the summer. But this... yeah, it's a boring movie. It's a dull film. The sci-fi aspects really are not that interesting. And like I said, it's one of those movies where it was clearly dumped on the first weekend of 2002 because there was nothing else there. They thought maybe they could sneak it in there, maybe they'd make some money off of it, and this thing crashed and burned big time. But then again, when you have a $40 million movie and you put all that money into this, you got to have a good story to work with here. And this one just did not. It's a forgettable film, and there really isn't a whole lot more I can say about it. It's a movie that I barely remember myself when I saw it, and from what I remember from it, not a whole lot of it stuck out with me. So yeah, not much more to say about that one. So we got that one out of the way. Now let's get to the good stuff here. Let's talk about the IMAX release of Disney's classic film, Beauty and the Beast.
Coming exclusively to IMAX and other giant screen theaters. A special large format cinema edition of a Disney classic.
Be our guest. Be our guest. Put our service to the test. Tie your napkin round your neck, Sherry, and we provide the rest.
On January 1st.
Here we go.
Relive the music. Relive the magic.
Mama, there's a girl in the castle.
This is impossible.
I know it is, but here we are.
And relive the beauty.
Hello. Hello, Belle.
Gaston, you are positively primeval.
Why, thank you, Belle.
Coming exclusively to IMAX and other giant screen theaters.
She's the one, the girl we have been waiting for.
She'll never see me as anything but a monster.
They must fall in love tonight if we ever expect to be human again.
Human again.
Featuring an original, never-before-seen musical sequence.
Belle, you came back.
Walt Disney Pictures proudly presents Beauty and the Beast. Coming January 1st, exclusively to IMAX and other giant screen theaters.
So we pretty much covered Beauty and the Beast already when I talked about it when it first came out, but this is notable for the specific reason that this is an IMAX release. And there was a time when Disney decided to re-release some of their classic movies from the past 10 years in IMAX. They would later do it the next year with The Lion King, and they were going to do it again with Aladdin, supposedly having an IMAX release. But as you can tell from here, they restored it, remastered it for an IMAX theater experience, and they've actually added in a musical sequence that was that's in the Broadway show, but not in the regular movie, called Human Again. And they brought in a lot of the animators back to do this. They had a digital master from the old CAPS files they had to make this high-resolution IMAX film negative, the high-resolution IMAX film negative, and the results speak for themselves. I mean, the movie, it's still the classic Beauty and the Beast. The new song they add feels kind of unnecessary, really. It's a decent song overall, but not one that's up there with some of the great songs in the movie. I mean, this thing has a ton of great songs in general. Well, and the sequence feels kind of pointless. It feels like they added in there to give this movie an extra lift to it, to, you know, give the people to have people come in and see this movie on a big screen. I mean, on a huge IMAX screen. Like, unfortunately, around here, we didn't have that big of an IMAX screen. If I wanted to see this movie that badly, we'd have to go all the way down to downtown Pittsburgh, because the Carnegie Science Center was the only place that had this IMAX theater where you can go see these movies. And, in fact, I've only been to one IMAX theater in my life, and that was when the Pittsburgh Mills had the IMAX theater there, and I went to see Superman Returns there, which was an interesting experience, to say the least. But yeah, I have barely been to an IMAX theater. I think the closest I've been to that has been a Cinemark XD theater, and even that is just like, yeah, it's a big theater screen, but it pales in comparison to what IMAX can do. And but luckily, I have seen Beauty and the Beast on the big screen. They would have a 3D release about 11 years, almost 10 years, actually 10 years later. 2012 would be when the 3D release would happen. So I did get to see it on the big screen eventually, but as far as this version is concerned, the song isn't bad. It's just kind of unnecessary. It kind of drags into the movie very pointlessly. But then again, The Lion King had one too, with the Morning Report, which I feel like is more pushed in there. I feel like that one was worse than this. This one just feels like it's kind of unnecessary, but it's not bad either. It's got nice animation to it. Like, honestly, I have more problems with the one that he did for The Lion King, but we'll let you get to that one when we open up 2003. But you know, the movie's still the same. The classic Disney movie, still one of the best animated films of all time. Not much more to say about that one. So that's Beauty and the Beast, the IMAX release. And we'll start a little bit of a trend, because Disney would put movies out in IMAX for a little bit after the success of Fantasia 2000, and then this, and then Lion King, and then so on and so forth. But with that said, now let's finally get to the 2001 leftovers. And 5 here to look at, so let's start with the first one I have here, and that is Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase.
Cyberspace.
Cyberspace? No.
Enter at your own risk as Scooby-Doo and the gang go digital to delete a ghostly phantom virus in deepest cyberspace. It's the all-new movie Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. Coming to video cassette and DVD October 2001.
So Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase is the fourth of the Scooby-Doo direct-to-video movies that began with on Zombie Island, The Witch's Ghost, and the Alien Invaders, and was actually recognized as the last official Hanna-Barbera production before they were eventually absorbed into Warner Brothers, and is shortly after the movie came out. And also notable, this is the first movie to have Greg DeLisle, D-E-L-I-S-L-E, I think I'm pronouncing that name right, but prolific voice actress. It's the first time she plays the voice of Daphne Blake, after Mary Kate Bergman played the role in the last 3 films. And in this one in particular, Scooby and the gang get trapped in a video game created for them, and they must fight against this phantom virus, but to escape the game, they must go level by level and defeat the game once and for all. And this is one of the first movies where the monsters are being back to fate, kind of. I mean, the phantom virus is a real villain, but he was created by somebody, so instead of there actually being real monsters in here, we're kind of back to the standard Scooby-Doo formula. And the premise is an interesting one. It does lead to some pretty cool ideas, like the Scooby gang meeting the video game Scooby Gang is kind of interesting. But the film never really amounts to anything we haven't seen done in other movies. And also the animation seems really, really lackluster this time around. I mean, the first 3 films definitely had the better animation, but you can really start to see it was getting a little too generic this time around, even though it's the same animation studio who did the other films. And then shortly after this, the movies that would follow after that would follow the What's New Scooby-Doo formula, and it's the last one, like I said, it's the last one to use that these designs before they eventually went over to the What's New Scooby-Doo designs. interesting ideas to it, but they never really do anything to give it its own edge or make it something that you have to see. Like, you basically end up feeling like you were okay with what you saw, but nothing really blows you away at the end. And I mean, that's the best way to describe Cyber Chase, really. Okay, but nothing that makes it a must-see. Once in a while it'll show up on Cartoon Network. It's worth a watch if there's nothing else on, but it's not one of those ones that I would say rush out and see it immediately. It's just kind of like, it's there. If there's nothing else on, you might as well just watch it. So yeah, Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase. But let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, which is another Hanna-Barbera-ish project, and that is The Flintstones on the Rocks.
Modern Stone Age family is having an age-old problem.
Now where's my dinner?
Can the Rubbles save their best friend's marriage?
Happy anniversary! Eureka!
Cartoon Network Cartoon Theater presents The Flintstones on the Rocks. Saturday at 7 on Cartoon Network.
So this one premiered not too long after Scooby-Doo and the Cyber Chase came out, and this is very interesting because this is a hard movie to find. Like, you cannot find a high-definition copy of this movie, as far as I'm aware of. It's been, over 20 years since this movie came out, but this is one that's been very, very hard to find in physical form. But this was made by the same people who gave us Dexter's Laboratory and the Powerpuff Girls. In fact, Chris Savino, who was one of the animators on the Powerpuff Girls, is one of the directors on it. And basically the storyline is that Fred and Wilma's marriage is in serious jeopardy, and Barney and Betty decide to help out by taking them on vacation to Acapulco for their anniversary. And this was kind of an attempt to recreate the more mature first and second seasons of the Flintstones rather than the more kid-friendly latter half of the series, even to the point where Pebbles and Bam Bam aren't even in this movie. And considering they got a lot of the same people who worked on Dexter's Lab and the Powerpuff Girls to put this together, it definitely shows, along with some of the original people who worked on the original series. There actually is this interesting meshing of the two different sides of animation. Like, you have the style of the old school mature animation combining with the new school animation that you can still tell is using adult style humor, but doing it in a very specific way where most kids watching this wouldn't even get half the references when they were younger and would figure it out later on down the road. And the final result is an interesting and surreal approach to such a beloved franchise like the Flintstones, and in a good way too. Sometimes the animation can look really, really good. I mean, the same style of animation from Dexter and Powerpuff Girls works surprisingly well for this universe. There's even a really good stop-motion sequence that still holds up even by today's standards. And on top of that, you got a great voice cast. Jeff Bergman, once again, as Fred. Tress MacNeille as Wilma. Kevin Michael Richardson as Barney. Gray DeLiz... I keep pronouncing this name wrong, and I don't know if I'm getting... DeLizel? Maybe it's DeLizel. Gray DeLizel as Betty. They're doing a pretty good job of filling those roles and giving their own unique performances to them. Like, Tress MacNeille is such a dead ringer for Jean Vanderply as Wilma. Like, I was amazed at how close she was to that role. Like, and a lot of these people would play the same roles again in the next Flintstones animated movie they would do with the WWE of all things, which is surprisingly pretty good too. I was actually really surprised at how much I enjoyed that one, but the humor is pretty good here for the most part. It does a good job of balancing the humorous elements with the more serious and emotion-driven moments, specifically with the scenes with Fred and Wilma having to focus on repairing their troubled marriage, and obviously, you want to root for them to get it back on track. And they do a good job of explaining both the pros and cons of the relationship, and it does lead to a nice little conclusion at the end. But like I said, the saddest thing about the movie is that it's hard to find a copy of this movie anywhere. It's not available on DVD or Blu-ray. It doesn't have a home release, not even a Warner Archive exclusive, and it's a shame because it's one of those ones that I really think should get some kind of physical copy or a way to watch this movie because it's a really good film. Now, as far as I know, there isn't one. Maybe there's one on like Amazon Prime or something that I just don't know of, or maybe even on Tubi where you can watch the Flintstones on there, but as of right now, you'd have to be lucky to watch it on a recorded blank videotape from 2001 or find it deep somewhere online somewhere, but who knows? Maybe it's out there and I just haven't seen it yet. If anyone knows if I can find a copy of this, let me know down in the comments below. But I thought The Flintstones on the Rocks was pretty good. It does a good job of meshing together the old and the new in a very funny, well-animated, and cleverly written homage to the original series. And hopefully, maybe this will be a sign that, hey, Warner Brothers, you've taken a lot of smack over the last couple of years, especially for me, but I mean, you could make up a little bit if you could actually give us a physical copy of this. Even if it's on Warner Archive, I'll gladly take it because I want to watch this movie again in high definition. So if anyone's out there and they know where I can find this, please let me know because I really want to see this movie in full again. But Yeah, that's the Flintstones on the Rocks, so let's go ahead and move to some Disney. We've got a new Disney holiday movie to talk about, and that is Mickey's Magical Christmas, Snowed In at the House of Mouse.
We interrupt this broadcast for a special weather bulletin. The snow continues to fall. All schools, all stores, all roads will be closed until further notice. In other words, we're snowed in.
What? Oh, no!
Gosh, Mickey, if we're snowed in, how are we supposed to get home to our families?
Aw, don't worry, fellas. You've got family right here. All of us.
I always wanted a duck for a brother. Oh!
Join Mickey Mouse and all your favorite Disney friends in a full-length animated movie, Mickey's Magical Christmas, Snowed In at the House of Mouse. Now available on video and Disney DVD.
So this is the first of two movies based off of the Disney series that they had at the time, The House of Mouse, with everybody from the Disney Animation Library all together. They go to a night. Mickey Mouse has a nightclub, and Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Goofy, all of them run it, and you see all these great Disney, the classic library of Disney characters there watching a show and watching classic cartoons. And basically, the storyline is that everyone's snowed in at the House of Mouse. Mickey suggests they throw their own Christmas party, and everyone is happy except for Donald, who just isn't in the Christmas spirit. So Mickey shows a series of cartoons that shows just what Christmas is all about. And, I mean, it's really just a compilation film, really, because most of the stuff is from the Mickey Mouse Works TV series. There's two classic cartoons. There's Pluto's Christmas Tree, and then they show Mickey's Christmas Carol in full. And this was actually one of two compilation movies that came out on the same day. Recess had a Christmas movie as well, and I was going to bring that up as well, but I figured I might as well just talk about it here, because there's not really much more to say about that one, except that it's basically the same thing, a compilation film with, like, classic Recess episodes, and then they show the Christmas episode in there. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing as this, and yeah, it seems kind of pointless, but at the same time, there are moments where it does hold up nicely. I mean, yeah, half the time you're watching classic Mickey Mouse cartoons, but at the same time, they're good Mickey Mouse cartoons. Like I really like the Nutcracker one cartoon they have in here. I like the fact that they have Pluto's Christmas Tree in here, as well as Mickey's Christmas Carol. Well, that's one I still watch every Christmas. And, you know, like I said, it's still great to see all these classic Disney characters in one room. I mean, it's a really, really cool, well-done concept. And, it's a shame the House of Mouse still isn't available on Disney Plus, which is shocking to think about it, since this show still has a lasting memory with a lot of people, and this movie has a lasting memory with a lot of people. It has a great little song at the end featuring all of them singing that is very well done. It's a really fun little Christmas movie. It's one that I don't watch every year, but it's one that every once in a while I'll go back to. I mean, it's good for what it is. It's a really well done film. Nothing too special, nothing too exciting, but it delivers what it promises. It's a nice little Christmas gift that every once in a while is worth a watch during the holiday season. Maybe not once every year, but I like it. I think it's fun. So that's Mickey's Magical Christmas, Snowed at the House of Mouse. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one I have on this list, and that is Beethoven's Fourth.
Oh, no. Who let the dog in? Everyone's favorite dog, Beethoven, is back. Just that. One's a pooch in need of social graces. The other's a dog living high on the hog. When their worlds collide, everything goes to the dogs.
He just picked up my napkin. He folded your napkin.
That's weird.
It's having an anxiety attack!
Beethoven's back for double the trouble in the movie that will make the whole family howl.
Oh.
Judge Reinhold and Julia Sweeney are back for more in Beethoven's Fourth. Only today on video and DVD. Rated G.
It's basically Prince and the Pauper meets Beethoven. I mean, literally the plot is the family is pleasantly surprised and puzzled when Beethoven suddenly becomes obedient. Turns out it's a Prince and the Pauper scenario where the real Beethoven is now living with a pompous, rich family. And it's literally so predictable that by the end of it, nobody even figures out that these two dogs were completely different. And that's kind of the major negative with the movie, is that everything is kind of pointless. I mean, nothing about this movie really is all that funny. Nothing about this movie is really all that interesting. And as much as I love Beethoven as a character, I don't think he's really given a whole lot to do here. And, you know, the Prince and the Pauper scenario is not really well suited, I think, for a Beethoven movie. I think there's so much more you could do with this character. and the story of the Prince and the Pauper, which is a great story to tell. I mean, it's based off of one of Mark Twain's classic stories, and has been done well in the past. I mean, just look at the Mickey Mouse one. But this, it just feels kind of like they had to make it because the last one was an unexpected success, and Universal sees a lot of potential in Beethoven, and this was not the last time we'd see Beethoven in a movie like this, because there's still 4 more movies after this, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's still 4 more movies after this. This has just as many sequels as The Land Before Time, except Land Before Time is much more than that, which, come to think of it, I don't know why I've never spotlighted the Land Before Time movies, but maybe that's something to think about for the future. But yeah, this movie, I don't know. As much as I love Beethoven, this feels like much of a stretch, and there's a good idea with the Prince and the Pauper concept, but they never really do anything that funny with it, unfortunately, so hard pass on that one. Even though I like Beethoven, I've seen him in so much better films, though. But let's go ahead and wrap this episode up by taking a look at the last film on the list here, and that is Pokemon Mewtwo Returns.
On video, Pokemon Mewtwo returns. From the far reaches of the Johto region, an old nemesis returns.
I am Mewtwo.
To battle his fiercest opponent ever.
You.
In a brand new movie adventure.
Pikachu!
Mewtwo returns in the sequel to Pokemon the first movie.
Do not test the limits of my power.
Pokemon Mewtwo returns. Look for it on videocassette and DVD.
So, as they indicate, this is a direct-to-video sequel to Pokemon the first movie, where you have Ash, Misty, and Brock continuing to explore the Johto region and having to rescue Pikachu after Team Rocket kidnaps him, and the search leads them to find the hidden plateau where Mewtwo had established a haven with the clone Pokemon from the previous movie. And the evil Giovanni is planning to recapture Mewtwo and renew his efforts to create an army of bioengineered Pokemon. And aided by the reluctant Meowth, Ash and his friends defeat Giovanni and his henchmen. This is one of those ones that feels really weird, because when I saw this, I thought it was something that Kids WB made themselves. I didn't think this was something that was made specifically by the people who made the Pokemon anime, but no, this was made by them. It came out in Japan in 2000, but came to video late in December of 2001. It actually includes a mini-feature called The Uncut Story of Mewtwo's Origin, which was a 10-minute sequence that was originally cut from Mewtwo Strikes Back, which we talked about before, where basically the concept of that is that they explain the backstory of Mewtwo's origin. If you don't remember, they actually had a reason why Mewtwo was cloned, and the scientist who created him was basically trying to find a way to clone his deceased daughter, and through visions, Mewtwo is told by the daughter that he's more than just a clone, but his own person, which makes for a better reason for him to lose it at the lab instead of just snapping and blowing up everybody like he did in the regular version. That basically comes into this version here. It was actually cut from the original version of the American dub of the first movie because of the G rating, and they thought it was too dark and morose, which this was 1999. I think you could still get away with a G rating, but I digress. But as far as this movie goes, it's fine. I mean, I think it does a better job of telling the story and going more into Mewtwo's backstory in general, because this was something that was originally intended for the first film. And I like how it even makes fun of the fact that, like, the whole thing at the end of Pokemon the first movie, where Mewtwo just wipes everybody's memory away, and they actually make fun of that in this particular movie here. And I'll give it to Dan Green, who comes in as Mewtwo in this film, who is the voice of Yu-Gi-Oh! He does a pretty good job of handling the role in the English dub, and I mean, it's fine for what it is. I think it's a decent little sequel to the first movie, and it does fix a lot of the problems that were in the dub of the first film in general. But I won't say it's anything too classic or anything too amazing, but it's fine for what it is. I think it delivers what it promises, and it's just there, I think, to be a movie where, the first movie was a success, so let's have a sequel to that, and let's try to fix some of the problems that we had from the first film that we could actually fix in this particular film, and I thought it did a pretty good job with it. It's fine for what it is, but it's one that I wouldn't say is a must-watch every time. But if you want to see a sequel to the first movie, here you go, right there, Pokemon Mewtwo Returns.
When Sean Brugger got rejected from college, His girlfriend wouldn't give in.
My friend's grandfather's on the board at Stanford. Can't you see I'm busy? Sean's my boyfriend, and I would do anything to help him. Even break a promise to you. Remember prom night? Hi, Grammy. It's Tanya.
And his brother wouldn't give up.
Hello, Stanford admission. Loosen it up. You like what you see? You know you do.
Orange County, rated PG-13. Starts tomorrow.
So Orange County is the story of this local surfer kid played by Colin Hanks, who's from Orange County, who dreams of going to Stanford to become a writer to get away from his dysfunctional family household. Except Sean runs into one complication after another, starting with his application being rejected after his dim-witted guidance counselor sends the wrong application. So Sean goes to great lengths, with a little help from his girlfriend Ashley, played by Shyler Fisk from Snow Day, and his drugged-out loser buddy Lance, played by Jack Black, to get into Stanford any way they see fit. This is directed by Jake Kasdan, who had done one movie before this, Zero Effect, and this was written by Mike White, who you now know as a prolific writer of many different things. I mean, he started his career off writing stuff like Dead Man on Campus, Chuck and Buck, and he would later go on to write Jack Black's big hit that made him a star with School of Rock the next year. But nowadays, you know him for his work on Enlightened on HBO, as well as The White Lotus now, and he's done a ton of recent films work for Illumination, including the recently released Migration and the soon-to-be released, as of the time of recording this, Despicable Me 4. Talented guy all around, so there is a lot of talent all throughout the movie here, including the cast itself, not just including Hanks, Black, and Fisk, but Catherine O'Hara, John Lithgow, Harold Ramis, Jane Addams, Gary Marshall, Chevy Chase, Dana Ivey, Lily Tomlin, Leslie Mann, who coincidentally was in another movie that was very similar to this, Stealing Harvard, later on in the year. Pretty good cast all around here, and a lot of the same people worked on the show Undeclared, which was a criminally underrated show made by a lot of the same people who also did the other criminally underrated show Freaks and Geeks, which also, again, lasted one season. And coincidentally, that came out around the same time this movie did, so a lot of coincidences all throughout this. But yeah, this is one of those movies where, kind of like with a lot of some of the other dumb comedies we've talked about, like How High and Dude, Where's My Car, this is one of those movies where you think it's dead on arrival. It's a movie being released in the dumping ground of January. The studio probably didn't believe in it, and quite the opposite, because the movie actually is a lot funnier than I gave it credit for. It's a movie that actually kind of holds up better as time goes on, and I think it is because of the writing of Mike White and the fact that you have a pretty solid cast all around here. You know, Colin Hanks kind of gets a bad rap as an actor overall, but I don't know. I think he's been some stuff that's actually been pretty funny, and this is one where he's actually pretty good in it. And Jack Black in this could have easily been very annoying, but he surprisingly makes the role work. And I do wonder whatever happened to Shyler Fisk. She hasn't really done anything of noteworthiness since this, as far as I know, because I don't know. I'm kind of curious now. I don't know if she's done anything since then. Well, she's gone on. I see here she's gone on to become a musician, and I guess that's maybe where she took a lot of her time and credit off to that, because yeah, she hasn't done anything of true noteworthiness in terms of film. The only real exception I see here is The Best of Me, which did get a wide release, but it's The Best of Me. It's one of those Nicholas Sparks movies, and not one of the good ones, but it does look like she's had a successful career in music, so maybe she just decided, hey, she's better off doing music instead of acting in most movies and TV shows. But then again, I see that she's been in a couple of episodes of Fear the Walking Dead and Castle Rock as well, so I don't know. But yeah, this was the last real big thing I ever saw her in terms of a movie where she's part of the advertising. But overall, it is a really funny movie. It's one of those ones where, from the looks of it, it looks like a film that should be dead on arrival, but it's one of those ones where the comedy does work, the writing is very good, the direction by Jake Kasdan is very good as well. He does have a good connection with Jack Black, as you see with the Jumanji movies as well. It's a pretty solid movie, man. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed this one. I thought it was going to be one of those movies where I liked it as a kid, but it's going to get dated pretty quickly and not be as funny as I remember it. It actually has gotten a lot funnier since the last time I saw it, and I don't know. I really think it's actually worth a watch. If you're looking for a comedy that actually is kind of underrated, this is definitely one you might want to check out, especially if you want to see some early works by the director Jake Kasdan and the writer Mike White, and also as well as Colin Hanks and Jack Black as well. Yeah, Orange County's pretty good. I recommend it. So, let's go ahead and take a look at the last one we have for this week, and that is Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Believe the unbelievable, think the unthinkable, and prepare to face
another one of those movies where I heard a lot about it, but never really ever saw the movie. And it's one of those ones that nobody really ever says you need to see this movie. But the story here takes place in 18th century France, where the Chevalier de Fronsac and many of the Iroquois tribe are sent to investigate the mysterious slaughter of hundreds by an unknown creature in the country of Givaudan. So from the looks of it, I think it's... So from the sound of it, it looks like a period piece a period piece Wolfman movie, but I don't know. I mean, I've never actually seen this movie, so I can't really say for certain what this movie actually ended up becoming. But then again, I noticed that the director of this also did Silent Hill, which, it's not a great video game adaptation, but it does get the look and feel of Silent Hill down in terms of the visual look of the film. Script-wise, not so much. But this, you got some decent actors in here. Monica Bellucci, Vincent Cassel. But, this is one of those ones where I really have never seen this movie, nor have I really ever had the urge to go see it. I've never heard anybody say, you need to check this movie out. And, I mean, I don't know. Some of the action sequences in here look pretty good from the stuff that I have seen. You got some animatronics and puppets from Jim Henson's Creature Shop used in this as well, as a mix of combination CGI. And I guess this was still kind of that time we could still use practical and CG and mesh it together, and you wouldn't be able to tell a difference. But other than that, though, I really do not know too much else about this movie. I've never seen it before, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, which is, quite honestly, something I haven't said in a while about a specific movie, because I've seen most of these movies coming from 2000 2001. This is the first one I think I've seen in a while that I can honestly say I have not seen. So I don't know if it's any good or not. It's got some positive reviews, so maybe it is worth it, but I've just never had the real urge to go check it out myself. So not much more to say about that one. That is Brotherhood of the Wolf.
We're here at the Arctic Challenge, the race that celebrates the bond between man and animal.
Meet the Snow Dogs. Diesel, Mac, Scooper, Duchess, Yodel, Sniff, Nana, and Demon.
These dogs are champions, except for Nana, of course.
Now, the greatest sled dog team in the world is about to get a new owner.
It's about a will. It's about some lady in Alaska. Alaska?
And this dentist from Miami is about to discover
Nobody said anything about a dog.
his inheritance really bites.
Where's those dogs?
They're eating the house.
Why don't you pack up your big city butt and go back? Let go! Let go!
This winter,
Place your feet on runners, keeping your weight centering, blah, 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 blah.
they'll test him.
Okay. Ready? Set!
They'll teach him.
This is insane!
I'll show him the regular sledge dog is down!
And take him on the ride of his life. But most of all, they'll make him a champion.
Maybe you need to finish what you started.
Walt Disney Pictures presents
Let's go!
Academy Award winner Cuba Gooding Jr.
All this time I thought I wasn't in the right place. But I was.
Academy Award winner James Coburn. From a producer of George of the Jungle.
I finally understand sledding.
And the director of Beethoven.
Oh, my goodness gracious! Hey, wait, let's all be cool.
Ted, you really stepped in it this time.
Disney's Snow Dogs.
So yeah, that trailer pretty much sums it all up. Snow Dogs is an action-packed comedy your whole family will love. You can tell I'm getting the synopsis from Wikipedia and IMDb, not even Wikipedia, IMDb, but 8 adorable but mischievous jobs get the best of dog hater Ted Brooks, played by Cuba Gooding Jr., when he leaves his successful Miami Beach dental practice for the wilds of Alaska to claim his inheritance, 7 Siberian Huskies and a Border Collie, and discovers his roots. As said life goes to the dogs, he rises to the occasion and vows to learn to mush with his inheritance. Totally out of his element, he faces challenges he's never dreamed of. There's a blizzard, thin ice, an intimidating, crusty old mountain man named Thunderjack, played by James Coburn, in one of his last film roles, by the way. The Arctic Challenge sled dog race that's only 2 weeks away, and a life and death rescue. This fish-out-of-water, tail-wagging comedy is nothing but doggone good fun and a celebration of family, both human and canine. Okay, I'm done. Okay, I'm sorry for putting you through that, but, yeah, that's basically the plot of this movie. And yes, this was a real movie. So much so that I actually remember seeing it in theaters when it came out. It's been over 22 years since this movie has come out. And it's a stupid movie back then. It's a stupid movie now. And a surprisingly decent, fun, stupid movie. It's a bad movie. Don't get me wrong. It's a bad movie. It's a typical fish-out-of-water comedy. Let's take the guy who's been in the Miami heat and put him in the Alaskan cold, and all of a sudden, the jokes will ride themselves when they really do not. The pratfalls aren't funny, the dialogue is very cliched, riddled as all hell, as well as the plot, but here's the thing. I don't know why, but this movie just has that nostalgic feel to me. Like, I mean, it's a stupid movie, but there is this self-aware stupidity here that I kind of have to admire for it, because a lot of these movies that were coming out around this time tried to do the same thing and failed on so many levels. I mean, I would gladly take this over something like Sea Spot Run or Kangaroo Jack. And, oh, by the way, in case you're wondering about Kangaroo Jack, Snow Dog's success apparently led Kangaroo Jack to change from its original R-rated mafia comedy aspect to a family comedy. The film screenplay for that movie in particular was actually a mafia comedy in the style of Midnight Run. The film was pretty much finished and ready to go to be released. The producers saw the test footage, they realized the film didn't work and the cut didn't work, and they saw the early test screenings and the marketing campaign behind Snow Dogs and basically said, we're going to shift the marketing focus of this from a mafia comedy to a family picture. I'm sorry, let me get into the nostalgia critic voice. A family picture. And new footage was shot to include replace the animatronic kangaroo with a new CGI one, and getting into rap, and the film was edited to be more family friendly, and it was all downhill from there. Just like this movie is all downhill from there. I mean, so yeah, thanks Snow Dogs for Kangaroo Jack, I guess. Thanks for wasting everybody's time. Thanks for this movie that is not that great of a movie, and it's a bad movie, but it's one of those ones where it's just like, it's that little part of me that saw this movie back in the day that just says, I can't say that it's a completely awful movie. I mean, like I said, I would rather take this over something like Sea Spot Run or even Kangaroo Jack, because this at least knows what it's doing. I mean, come on. The advertising was so ridiculous. That whole thing with like the dogs with like the obvious fake expressions, and at the end when they're like talking, and you find out later in the film it's actually part of a dream sequence that Cuba Gooding Jr. is having. I mean, and for Cuba Gooding Jr., this is not the worst thing he did after he won the Oscar. I mean, Boat Trip and Radio still have yet to come out, so I guess this compared to those two movies, this is like watching Jerry Maguire again by comparison. But maybe it's because I love Brian Levant, the director, who also did the Flintstones, Beethoven, Jingle All the Way. I don't know. I don't know why I like this movie. It should be a movie that I absolutely despise. It should be a movie that I should say, avoid this movie like the plague, but I somehow can't do it, man. It's just like, that part of me that saw that movie as a kid still likes how ridiculous and stupid this movie was. And it's a ridiculous, stupid movie. Don't get me wrong. I would not recommend this movie to anybody unless you saw it as a kid in a theater or watched it on video or on the Disney Channel. If it was even on the Disney Channel back then, I sincerely doubt it. But again, anything was on the Disney Channel at least back in those days. I mean, compared to now. But yeah, not much more to say about this one. That's Snow Dogs is a trip, alright. It's quite a trip indeed. So, let us move on to the last movie we have here, and that is State Property.
Regal, Jay-Z, Damon Dash, Memphis Bleak, Emilio Sparks.
Game ain't over. It's gonna be trouble.
State Property.
Yeah, I never heard of this movie, and apparently it found some success because it later led to a sequel that came out a couple years later. But frustrated with being broke, Beans, played by Beanie Siegel, decides the only way to grasp the American dream is to take it. The film follows Beans and his crew, the ADM, as they take over the city, creating mayhem as their empire builds. Beans now struggles to maintain his family life while bumping heads with opposing gangsters and police. It all comes to a head when he cannot surpass the city's most notorious crew, run by Untouchable Jay, played by Jay-Z, and Dame, played by Damon Dash. The move Beans and the ABM decide to make come with severe consequences. So, it sounds like it's trying to be a new version of a Scarface, but doesn't sound like it had that much success. I mean, I guess it was somewhat of a success because the movie did not cost that much to make, and it still made back its like 4 times its budget, and got thrashed by critics. I mean, I don't see any, but it's 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I'm just kind of curious what State Property 2 did, and it got better reviews, 14% better, but still better. But yeah, I've never seen this movie, so I can't really say for certain if it's any good or not. I don't know if it really warranted itself as a success to have a sequel, but maybe it did because it made 4 times its budget back, and they said, "Hey, give us another one," I guess. But I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I don't know too much about this movie. I've never heard anybody really say it's something that you should definitely check out. But yeah, not much more to say about that one. So that is State Property for you.
That Jamie Sullivan sure has style.
She was the girl no one understood. You don't care what people think about you?
No.
She was the girl that would change his life forever.
I think you can do anything.
Shane West, Mandy Moore.
She makes me want to be different, you know? Better.
Based on the best-selling novel, A Walk to Remember. Look for it on video and DVD.
So the story goes that this takes place in Beaufort, North Carolina, as a prank on a student goes wrong and puts him in the hospital. You have Landon, played by Shane West, a popular student who has no plans for the future, who's held responsible and is forced to join after-school community service activities, which include starring in the lead in the play. Participating in these activities is Jamie Sullivan, the Reverend's daughter, who has great ambitions and has nothing in common with Landon. She's played by Mandy Moore. So when Landon decides he wants to take his activities seriously, he asks Jamie for help and begins to spend most of his time with her. They start to get along, which he does not expect to happen, which, how could you not in a story like this? They develop a relationship, but much to the chagrin of Landon's old popular friends and Jamie's strict Reverend father. But with a heartbreaking secret becoming known that puts the relationship to the test, it is then Landon and Jamie realizing the true meaning of love and fate. And if you've seen a Nicholas Sparks movie, you know how this is going to end. So, yeah, this is pretty mediocre. Even though it has the director, Adam Shakeman, who is a pretty decent director. He's made some movies that are pretty fun. Like, I like Bringing Down the House. I like The Pacifier. I even like stuff like Cheaper by the Dozen 2 and What Men Want. Hairspray is probably his best film overall. And as much as I think he's a decent director, he can't really save this movie. As much as Mandy Moore is doing the best she can with this, she really can't save it either. Shane West is trying everyone's trying their best in this movie. Shane West, Peter Coyote, Daryl Hannah, but the story itself is just pretty bland. It's very much a predictable movie. Most of Nicholas Sparks' movies are very predictable. People forget when The Notebook came out. That was one of those successes that worked because you had 2 Oscar-caliber actors in Ryan Gosling and Rachel McAdams in there who made that material work, and a good director that can make that material work. And it's his most popular story. But everyone wanted to create their new Notebook, but this was before The Notebook came out. And it just didn't really work, and it just shows that The Notebook was a lightning in a bottle moment where it all came together, but everything else that's been done based off of Nicholas Sparks' material has either ended in disaster or has ended up in a film that's very mediocre. And this is a very mediocre film. It's not bad. It's not that it's a bad movie. It's just a bland movie, and there's nothing really about it that makes it all that special. I mean, if you can tell that these are sets that were literally taken from the set of Dawson's Creek, there's kind of a problem here, and it kind of shows right from the get-go. And you don't really buy their chemistry together. Shane West and Mandy Moore, the chemistry just really isn't there for it to really give this movie the lift that it needs to really be something special. And it's just not there, sadly. I mean, there's a lot here that could work, but it just doesn't. It's a movie that feels like a major letdown because the potential is there. I mean, these are 2 really good actors who were in 2 really good shows at the time. one of them was in a really good show at the time, Once and Again, and Mandy Moore was a solid musician. This was actually her first feature film debut, but as we've seen later on down the road and stuff like Tangled and also This Is Us, she can be a really good actress, but here it's just not enough to carry the film over, unfortunately. So, yeah, not much more to say about that one. That's a walk to remember. So let's move on to the next movie, and that is Guy Pearce, Jim Caviezel, and Richard Harris in The Count of Monte Cristo.
Your friend is always an adventure. Yes, it is, isn't it? Edmond Dantes had the perfect life until his best friend framed him.
You're under arrest.
There will be justice. Now, he will train to fight. Dare to escape. And take back his life. Jim Caviezel, Guy Pearce, Richard Harris. How did you ever call yourself my friend? The Count of Monte Cristo. Rated PG-13. Starts January 25th.
The Count of Monte Cristo, king for a day. I'm sorry, every time I think of The Count of Monte Cristo, I think of that song that Daffy Duck sings in Looney Tunes, But this is The Count of Monte Cristo, the classic Alexander Dumas storyline, and it basically follows the same plot as the novel, about the story of imprisonment, revenge preserved, but with many elements, including the relationship between the main two characters and the ending modified. And if you want to know the real story behind that, instead of what Wikipedia is telling you, let's go to IMDb, and they'll have a more detailed description of what this movie is about. So, Edmond Dantes is a sailor and falsely accused of treason by his best friend Fernand, who wants Dantes' girlfriend Mercedes for himself. Dantes is imprisoned on the island prison of Chateau d'If for 13 years, where he plots revenge against those who betrayed him. With the help of another prisoner, he escapes from the island and proceeds to transform himself into the wealthy Count of Monte Cristo as part of his plan to exact revenge. And, this was what I think a movie like The Musketeer was trying to do. Take a classic story and create a new modernized version of it for a new generation, but that one didn't work out well at all. But this one surprisingly works really well. I was actually really surprised at how much I enjoyed this movie. This is directed by Kevin Reynolds, who you may be very familiar with his work with Kevin Costner, who did Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Rapa Nui and Waterworld. But as outside of that, like he's done some stuff that's been good as a director. He did The Hatfields and McCoys for A&E, which was actually really good. I think he gets more flack for some of the movies he's made, because he's made some movies that were not big hits for obvious reasons, like Tristan and Isolde was not that great of a movie, or Risen was not that great of a film. 187, Rapa Nui, Waterworld was a big bomb when that came out, of course, but he could be a really good director, and I like what he does with this. He does with this kind of like what he does with Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Gives it the classic, sticks with the classic story, but gives it its own modern look to it that makes it stand out more than I think a lot of people would give it credit for. And the performances are really good. Jim Caviezel, Guy Pearce, Richard Harris, all very good in the film. Luis Guzman has a really good role in this too, that's kind of outside of his normal characters that we're used to seeing him as. It's a really good movie, man. I actually say definitely check it out. You would think that it's dumped in the middle of January because the studio didn't believe in it, but surprisingly works. It's actually a very solid film that I would say definitely check it out if you haven't seen it, because it is definitely worth the watch. And seeing something new and different with the storyline that's been done before, but with this new twist, I think it actually is something that actually does work out very well. It's something I highly recommend checking out, The Count of Monte Cristo. So with that said, on to the next movie, and that is Richard Gere in The Mothman Prophecies.
Hello? It's real, John. If whatever John Klein is experiencing 99 of time is all in his mind.
You didn't see it, did you?
How come his nightmares are all coming true? The Mothman Prophecies.
You're reading my mind, aren't you? What's in my hand? Chapstick.
Rated PG-13. Opens everywhere January 25th.
How the hell do you make chapstick sound threatening? Short answer is that you don't make it do that, and that's what I always remember that from the commercials, and like that was one of the big selling points of us. Like, oh, what do I have in my hand right now? Chapstick, and like he says, like, am I supposed to be scared by that? Because I certainly wasn't. But The Mothman Prophecies, based off of a 1975 book of the same name, but Richard Gere here playing a reporter who researches the legend of the Mothman, who's still shaken up from the death of his wife 2 years earlier from a glioblastoma. I think I'm pronouncing that right, but Gear's character is sent to cover a news piece and ends up inexplicably finding himself at Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where there has been sightings of an unusual creature and unexplained phenomenon. As he becomes increasingly drawn into mysterious forces and work, he hopes that they can reconnect him to his wife, while the local sheriff, played by Laura Linney, becomes concerned about his obsessions. Now, around here, the Mothman's kind of well known around my neck of the woods. I live in western Pennsylvania, and West Virginia is literally right below us. And if you don't know the story of the Mothman, it was a humanoid creature reportedly seen in the Point Pleasant area between November of '66 and December of '67. And the first newspaper report was published in the Point Pleasant Register, titled "Couple Sees Man-Sized Bird, Creature Something." The national press soon picked the reports up and helped spread the story across the U.S. The source of the legend is believed to have originated from sightings out of migration sandhill cranes or herons. And every once in a while around here, you'll see people with Mothman stuff here. So it's kind of a little bit of a folk legend around here. I don't know too much about it to really say anything about it myself. But I can tell you that this movie did not leave much of a lasting impact on me because I didn't really get to see a lot of it. I only seen like little bits and pieces, and even for the little bits and pieces that I've seen from it, it wasn't scary. It really was not, and it's one of those movies where the potential is possibly there. This is a really good director, Mark Pellington, who had just done Arlington Road, which is a criminally underrated movie, and he would follow this up with a really good YouTube movie, YouTube 3D, that came out in theaters in 2008. But as far as the movie itself goes, this is not that great of a film, and it's just kind of a dull horror movie that has too much. I think it's above most horror movies because it's got a stellar cast. It includes Richard Gere, Laura Linney, Deborah Messing, Will Patton. I mean, these are some notable names in this movie. Some names that you would not think would be in a film like this, and yet here they are. And you kind of wish there was a much better movie for them to work on besides this. But other than that, though, an idea that could have some potential, but it never really fully lives up to it. And it doesn't even give you really much of an explanation of what the Mothman really is when it's all said and done. And I don't know. I thought it was kind of a letdown, honestly, the more I thought about it. From the little bits that I've seen from it, I haven't seen it in full, but from what I saw from it, I only saw maybe about 75% of it. And even by then, I was just kind of like, I have no real intentions on watching the rest of this movie, quite frankly, and, that's not much more I gotta say about that one. So that's the Mothman Prophecy. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is Kung-Pow, Enter the Fist.
The world's greatest legend.
I'm sorry?
I said the world's greatest legend will be revealed. From the director of Ace Ventura 2 comes the hardest-hitting comedy of the year. Kung-Pow, Enter the Fist.
Kung-Pow, Enter the Fist is written, directed by, and starring Steve O'Derrick, who you may be familiar with his work with the Ace Ventura movies, and he also wrote Bruce Almighty, and has worked on Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius, as well as Barnyard. And in this movie, it uses footage from the 1976 Hong Kong martial arts film Tiger and Crane Fist, also called Savage Killers, along with new footage shot by O'Derrick to create an original unrelated plot, and basically turn this into a comedy, kind of on the same levels as something like, the two biggest examples I could give you right away is What's Up Tiger Lily, Woody Allen's movie, and then Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, which is Steve Martin's movie where he puts himself in these in these classic gangster movies from the 1940s. Two really good films, and I really thought this movie was not going to stick up. I mean, it was a movie that, when I saw the trailers for it, I really had no intentions of wanting to see it. I just didn't think it really looked all that funny, and the reviews for it were not that great. The movie didn't do too well at the box office, but it went on to have this kind of cult following to it, and a cult following that actually kind of worked in the film's favor. I mean, you look at a movie like movies that came out after this, like Kung Fu Hustle and Shaolin Soccer, which are two really good movies that have kind of a similar feel to this, except those are really original material. And that's what I kind of got when I saw this movie for the first time, because I had already seen Kung Fu Hustle and also Shaolin Soccer after that. And Steve O'Derrick does a pretty good job with this, honestly. Like, there are some scenes in here that don't work, but there are times when the movie can be very funny and very ridiculous. And I think it's because the movie knows it's got to be stupid to really work. It knows that it has a concept that really in the right hands, it's got to work the way that they're selling you on this movie. I mean, not everything about it is going to work about it, and yeah, the jokes in here don't really work. Like the big scene that was selling the movie was the cow fighting the chosen one, and it's very dated indeed. It definitely feels like something that is very much, the effects do not work so well, and it does hurt the ebb and flow of the movie a little bit, but at times, but then the movie comes back around and has those moments where you shouldn't be laughing, but you're really laughing at how funny some of these ridiculous things are, and I think it's a very funny movie. I don't think it's as good as something like a What's Up Tiger Lily or Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, but for what this guy did with this movie, I found myself enjoying it more than I thought I was going to. I think Nostalgia Critic, who just did a review of this movie not too long ago, made a lot of good points in that review about this film in general here, and it is a really fun, ridiculously stupid movie that knows what it is, and you go in there, you have a good time with it, and it delivers, for the most part, what it promises. A silly, fun movie, and a concept that on paper sounds terrible, but in the end actually turns out to be something really, really enjoyable. And it is a really enjoyable film. I definitely recommend it. Kung-Pow Enter the Fist.